All right, I'm here with Anna Bright. Her last name is Bright, and she is indeed very bright. She played college tennis at UC Berkeley. She hiked the Pacific Crest Trail for 2,650 miles from Mexico to Canada. She's from currently Boca Raton, Florida. Her heroes are her mom and her grandma. She's currently the #3 women's doubles and #2 women's mixed doubles player on the PPA Tour. Thank you so much for sitting down with me. So you're 24 years old. You're starting off your career as a pro athlete, and you were actually an account manager for Duper before going full-time pro, if I'm correct. You had actually texted me one day asking about, since I have a club, and I was like, wait, is this a pro player, Anna Bright? Oh my God, what is she doing with Duper? And so can you describe the moment where you realized you were moving on from working in a business to going full-time into pro pickleball?
Yeah, so my first job was actually, I was like a project manager at a small fintech company, and then I had a big breakout tournament, and Steve Kuhn and Jill Braveman kind of recruited me away from that job to work for Duper as like account manager, kind of project manager towards the end. And that was great because then I could play pickleball, I could play my tournaments. So kind of funny, I didn't last in my first job very long. Then I was at Duper for about 6 months, and I think when I kind of realized that I needed to choose, like I was getting better at a fast rate, and there was Duper was hosting a big waterfall tournament in Newport Beach at TTC, and I was having a lot of fun being a part of putting it together, but it was kind of my project, and I was so stressed out all the time. And that's when I kind of realized, like, okay, like this trajectory is only going to hit, they're only going to be asking me to do more and more, so I was like, that was kind of when I knew that I had to choose.
Well, I think you probably made a good decision.
I'm pretty happy with my decision. I think I would have had a great time staying at Duper too. I was really passionate about the work and everything, but you can't like beat playing pickleball.
Right. So one thing that's always fascinated me about your game is whether you're playing mixed or women's, I feel like you're sort of usually the quarterback on the court.
Oh.
You lead in terms of your energy and the way you poise yourself. I'm curious, is that something that's naturally evolved over time, or is that something you made a serious effort to project? How do you kind of see your role and how you take lead on the court?
I mean, that's really sweet. Thank you. I think it's kind of been natural for me. I've always been a really natural and kind of gifted competitor. Like I started playing tennis tournaments when I was 6. I got serious with tennis at 6. I would play, I'd be 6, I'd be playing in the 12s division, right? Because not enough girls would sign up for the 8s or the 10s, and I did pretty dang well. So I think it's been pretty natural, and I've always been a smart player, very smart player. That's kind of where tennis I had a ceiling just because of my athleticism and just natural ability to rip, because women's tennis becomes just an absolute rip fest. I just couldn't do it, right? But I was always very good strategically, very good at just staying in matches, grinding. But I wasn't the fastest. I was always one of the slower girls when it came to like footwork drills or something. So pickleball just suits me so well with this court is smaller, right? It's about anticipation, hand speed, and decision making, which were my strengths, and consistency. I think those 4 things are kind of the hallmarks of pro pickleball, and those are my absolute strengths in tennis. So, I don't really know. I think it's kind of natural. I really try to kind of, even in mix, kind of have that, tell myself like alpha mentality, like not like I'm trying to boss my partner around or anything, but don't just like get that mentality that you're just in a box and like you can't do much or affect this match. I think that's something I've been trying to work on, especially in mixed.
Yeah. I heard that when you started playing pro, you had never drilled. And
yeah.
So I'm curious, do you think if you had drilled before, you might have been a better player today? Or?
That's actually funny. I actually don't think so. I think that drilling starts to help you improve once you kind of hit some plateaus, right? And I was really very naturally talented at pickleball, and I had great players to play rec with. Maybe if you might plateau, even if you have more room to continue playing, improving just with rec, if like you don't have access to better players. But I was so blessed, right? I was playing with, Georgia, J.J. Johnson, Gabe Tardio, just within a few months of playing. So just obsessively playing rec, I think, was the best thing for me. And then I started to feel those plateaus start a few months into playing pro. And that's when the drilling started. So I think it just depends on your situation. I think once you start feeling plateaus hit, or I get DMs of people who are like 4.0s, 4.5s, really trying to reach that next level, that sounds like you've plateaued a little bit. That sounds like you might want to start looking at drilling.
Right. So you're one of the few pro players that plays mixed with your significant other.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious, was that a pro pickleball business decision, or was that a relationship decision?
I would say it was like 70-30 relationship decision, honestly, like, because I kind of got good a little bit earlier than James, and I always wanted to play with him, but Riley Newman asked me to play 2022, and we thought that was going to be my best option. But then we had played against each other a few times at that point, but then we played each other in a tournament, and it just felt like the energy was not good. Like, it was really catty, and it really affected our we just kind of realized that with our personalities both being such competitors, and just kind of, when I played James, I was hyper aware that it was James. When he played me, he's so meditative. It's like, it wasn't me until after the match, right? So he would still act as he does. You know, he's always saying "sí," saying, speaking Spanish, he's like super loud, and that just drove me insane. Yeah. And then after the match, he'd be like, oh, like, what was I doing, right? And so it was mostly a relationship decision, honestly. And like, he improved really fast at the start of 2022. So it wasn't like I was sacrificing anything at all to play with James. You know, I felt terrible, like, having to do that to Riley. He was really nice. I saw some people saying like, oh, like, he was a bad partner and I can't blame him. We're like, not at all. Like, that wasn't one part of the decision. Like, it was just had to do what's best for a personal relationship that means like the world to me.
Yeah. To all the couples out there that play together, do you have any pro tips on how to keep the relationship happy and the doubles team successful?
I think it's hard. I actually think that this is it's important to both be very good. I'm going to be honest. If you're both 3-5s or one person's a little better than the other relatively, right? Say my parents play together, like my mom's kind of like a 3-5, my dad's kind of pushing 4-0, right? So my mom like doesn't get out of his way. You know, when there's an overhead, she wants to get her backhand. Like, of course, that frustrates him. Or if like he like takes her ball, that'll frustrate her. Like, or if one of them is popping the ball up, you know, there's not like, once you're both very good, like 5-0s, or I think there's that shared understanding of what was the right decision. And as long as someone isn't making a bunch of bad decisions, like, there's no need to be upset. Even if you're missing doing the right thing, like, there's no need to be upset. It's I actually think it's important to be good, funny as it is, and just to be really nice to each other always. But it's funny. I think it is definitely easier the better you and your partner are, just because then it's not like one person is popping the ball up a bunch and getting your partner hit. Like, that doesn't really happen too much at our level. There aren't too many crazy pop-ups, right? Because if James is getting me hit all the time, I'd be aggravated with him. Yeah. But that doesn't really happen. So I actually think it's easier the better you are. So I get asked a lot, and I think, well, it's actually easier when you're both really good.
When you visualize about the future you want for your career 10 years from now, what do you want the Anna Bright career to have looked like when it's all said and done?
You know, I don't really know how much longer I'll be playing pro pickleball and truly like grinding, like playing 20 to 30 weekends a year. Definitely for the next 2.5 years or so. But after that, I'll have to reevaluate. I think definitely past 30. That's in about 5.5 years for me. I think that things will be different. I'll kind of wanted to move it to another phase of my life. I think it would be so much fun to be like a GM of a Major League Pickleball team. And I think that's something I would be very, very good at. And so that's something I see longer, like in my future, a little bit down the line, and probably get more into coaching and building out kind of that business, like having an academy and stuff. I've always been a very good coach. It just doesn't really have a place in my life right now, because I find that while I'm also playing a lot, that kind of contributes to burnout for me. But yeah, I would really like to be like the GM coach of an MLP team. I think that would be a blast and something that really suits my natural strength that I'd be great at. So any teams out there looking to hire, keep me in mind in a few years.
All right, we'll put it out there. 2 last questions. I want to actually go back to something we spoke about earlier. When you were making your decision to go full-time pickleball, you realized that's what made you happier and more energized. There are a lot of young people out there trying to figure out what they want to do with their lives, whether it's pickleball or unpickleball related. Can you talk about how, especially young people, can help make that decision of what they want to do with their life, and also what factors are the most important to keep in mind when making that decision?
It's tough, right? Like, everyone always says, follow your dreams and everything. And there's definitely a lot of truth to that. But I also don't think there's anything wrong with, having a job that you like, that kind of allows you to fund your dreams, right? We kind of have to be realistic. But when it comes to pickleball, I sometimes get people asking for advice who are kind of at that 5-0 level, who it's a big financial commitment to try to play pro, especially if you don't know if that's for you. And kind of what I recommend is it kind of fell into my lap, but I think finding a job in pickleball. Pickleball is growing and expanding so much with a company that will allow you to, play some tournaments. And I think that's a great way to go about it and kind of dip your toes in the water. Like that's kind of what I was able to do. I know like Jaime Martinez-Vic, I was listening to him recently, and he kind of got his paddle company to just invest in him and help him try for 6 months, right? And he got them that exposure and everything. And I think, some people are going to have to look for kind of workaround ways to kind of see if this could be something worth for them, especially like the game is only getting harder and harder to kind of break through. I feel really thankful that I did when I did. But I think especially for women right now, there's still plenty of room for women. It's getting really hard in the men's game, and it will get there in the women's game. But I think, if you're a girl wanting to give it a go, the time is now, honestly.
And the last question, it's something I always like to ask to pros. Why do you love pickleball?
I love it because it's just so darned fun. The same reasons that everyone is going to say. And when I finished tennis and everything, I just knew I was done. It just felt like a chapter in my life was ending, like in my last few months of college tennis. It's not something I was looking forward to. It wasn't something I was dreading. It's just like you just know when you're reading a book that the chapter is going to end. And that's just how I felt about tennis. Like I had the option to play one more year. I knew I didn't want to. My coaches really wanted me to, but I was just done. And I was planning on getting into like running, and I had already, done my hike and everything, but like running and mountain climbing maybe. But I just went out and played pickleball, and I just kind of realized how much I loved competing, and how I just think that's something that people don't talk about enough with pickleball. They talk about the social aspect, it's so fun and everything, but just it gives so many people an avenue to compete. Like when you're an adult, it's hard to compete anymore, right? Unless you go play like rec basketball or find some other rec league. Like it's really tough to compete at a high level, and I think it's something that's really natural for a lot of people. Not for everyone, not for everyone, and that's totally fine, but I think that's something that pickleball has kind of given and brought back into my life, and just for so many adults. And I think that's part of why people have the bug, and part of why people still pay these really high entry fees.
Absolutely. Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Anna. And
yeah, absolutely. Thank you,
so much.
guys.
Best of luck going forward.
Thank you.